did put it on silent. I think... Okay, I'll just share it because it's going to bug me. I'm going to be like, wait, did it get shared
when I
here?
can't watch comments, I'm like, oh, what does everybody say? So I feel like everybody's like, oh, good morning. Good morning, guys.
Hello.
Good morning. It's kind of 9:30ish. We are...
It's my fault.
Totally her fault. But she brought donuts, so that's okay.
Donuts and sausage rolls.
And I know I'm not sharing like what's going on in my life, but for the people that do know, I am eating a donut.
Oh shit!
I am eating a donut today.
There's a second one.
There
You
is.
can have the other one too.
So there is physical food going into my body today.
Oh my goodness. Oh, turn the volume down.
Oh.
And I am actually going to grab that other donut now.
Have at it.
Well, good morning. How is everybody this morning? What are you doing? Are you at work? Are you on your way to work? How are you watching us if you're at work? I mean, it's great. I'm glad you're doing it. But are you being sneaky? Are you allowed to watch?
Like under your desk
Yeah.
there.
Do you have headphones in? It's
Can I
like
use your
super
lighter?
weird.
We can share lettuce.
No,
Somebody
it's
stole my
delicious.
Capricorn one. I had a Capricorn one, and I think my dad took it. And I was like, Dad, you're not even Capricorn. Like, why? It's very girly. But that's probably where I inherited my lighter thiefness from, is my dad. Because I will. I have no shame. Like, I will take a lighter and just, like, if I see a lighter, it's just like, I'm always smoking. I always need a lighter.
Accidental. Mine's totally accidental. I think I'm trying so hard not to, like, lose somebody's lighter if they're like, here, you can use this, or if I need to use it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna lose it, and then I'll like put it in my pocket because I'm not gonna lose it if it's in my pocket, but then they lose it.
You like
subconsciously 2 days later, and I'm like, oh, my jacket, there's 14 lighters here. They're all shells.
All shells. Oh, that's funny.
Shells lighting candles with torches, and
I do that actually.
That's funny. I like all that stuff over in your window too. What is that, sage?
It's actually a mix of several things. There's a cedar.
You guys can't
Rose
see this, just
petals.
imagine. It's really cute. It's a nice window.
It looks really good.
There's smudge sticks and dried flowers hanging from it. I put cannabis leaves in it.
Yeah.
Blue valerian.
Is that just to like
Sweetgrass.
make the energy more positive in the house, or
Cleanse
is it?
it, bring the positive energy in, welcome to friendship, the love, the unity.
Have the sunlight go through.
Yeah. You'll have to take a picture of it later so everybody else can see it. Because that was when I first walked into your house. That was the first thing I noticed. Like, because you have a beautiful house, but then I'm like, oh, it's so witchy.
She has one of these older houses that, like, when I walked in, I had to ask. I was like, "Is it haunted?" Because I grew up in a haunted house, and I don't know what other people believe, but oh my gosh, I had some stuff happen when I grew up very ironically. Like, I grew up in Park City, Kansas, and I don't know if you guys know anything about serial killers, but when I was 17, we found out my neighbor was a serial killer.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he was BTK.
What the fuck?
Dennis Rader's was my neighbor. Yeah.
Holy shit.
My parents still live in that house to this day.
No, even in jail, I would have moved.
Oh my god, like, I have so many
I just want to
stories.
stand up.
Like,
I don't even
no,
know.
I'm seriously.
I'm so, like, I don't know how
it was
many hours
crazy.
you have.
But,
That's
like, I have
crazy.
so many stories about him growing up. It's insane because we hated him. And in hindsight, you look back and you're like, ooh, I was fucking with the devil, man. Like, I did not realize.
Ding dong ditch.
No, we did worse than that. We did worse than that because my dad and him hated each other, and he was the compliance officer. So every time they got into an argument, we would get a ticket. Well, we went out of town one time, and he killed our dog. We had a bear. We had a chow named Bear.
They had a bear, and they just called it a dog.
Yes.
I would hate to be your neighbor too.
We were gone on vacation, and when we came back, he was gone, and my dad found out that he had him euthanized within like 24 hours of picking him up, even though he knew he was our dog. So of course we got mad, and my sister is a little bit older than me, and we had a clubhouse that we used to stay the night in, and we got so mad, and we were sitting there, and it was like midnight or so, and this is when kids were allowed to do things and run the streets and hang out, and it was full of kids, and we were just talking about it. I was like, you know what? How dare he? How dare he kill our dog? My sister's like, we should do something. He needs to know that we know this. And we were like, okay. So we thought we were so badass. We went down at night to his house, and he gardened. He had so much, like, floral stuff. And I remember them because they were those squishy, like, succulent plants, you know what I'm talking about? We dug up a bunch of those, and we strategically dug them up, like, popping holes in, like, different spots all over his garden. And then we went down to our house and planted them around our mailbox. And it was like 2 weeks later, he's driving down the street, and we're outside on the porch, and he looked at the mailbox, and he looked at us, and looked at the mailbox, and just kept driving, and we were like, we just went inside. We were like, oh
my
fuck.
God. Well, I'm glad you're alive.
Right?
Like,
Yeah.
Do you guys hear this?
Yeah, it's great. My life is, like, crazy ironic. Like, I've never had, like, crazy shit happen to me, but, like, things happen around me that is just, like, so mind-boggling. And I swear to God, my dad's the reason why he resurfaced. Like, people will say it was the book that this guy wrote, Warren something, but I read that book. That book was shit. My dad, we had a neighbor lady named Tina who died of pancreatic cancer, and she used to get tickets from him all the time because she would let her dog out the front yard to go to the bathroom and go back in. Well, anytime he saw that, the dog wasn't on a leash, so he'd give her a ticket. Well, it was a couple months before BTK resurfaced, and we got home, and my dad pulled in the driveway, and I remember the car, like, jerking, and we look up, and my mom goes, because my maiden name is Reno, so she calls my dad Reno, so she goes, Reno, don't you do it. You go back and go in the house. Just go in the house. And my dad goes, nope, I'll be right back. So he gets out and starts marching down towards Dennis's house, who's outside watering his yard. We're kids. We're pumped up. We're like, oh, Dad's about to beat Dennis's ass. Like, we've been waiting our lifetime for this to happen, right?
God.
So he goes over there, and I didn't find out until a couple of years ago. What set him off was he saw Dennis's dog out in the front yard without a leash on, and Tina had just died 2 weeks before that, and something inside him just got so angry and was like, I have to say something to him. I'm gonna say something to him. And he went down there, and they had the biggest altercation I've ever seen in my life. Just, my dad was like, because he was in his driveway watering his yard, and my dad was standing in front of him, like the driveway line, and he was like, step out here, I'll beat your ass. I know who you are. I know you're a pussy. You pick on women. You think I don't know who you, I see you. Just calling his ass out. And I remember Dennis, we were all, like, I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. Okay.
I'm like, what the fuck?
So we were all at the end of the driveway, and I remember Dennis turning his face. And I remember him turning and looking at us and grabbing his chin like this as he looked at all of us kids. And my dad, like, just quick as shit, just popped right in front of him and said something and used his fingers like this and turned around and walked back to the house. And I guess what he said was that he told Dennis, don't you ever look at my family like that because I'll slit your throat. And he turned and went back to the house. And my mom was like, I hope you have some money ready. We're going to get it to you. I hope you know that, like, we're going to be in so much trouble. Da, 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 da. And we didn't hear anything from him. And then BTK resurfaced. And then in 2005 is when he got arrested. And I was 17. And I remember coming home from the bus, and the whole street was blocked off. And the cops were like, where are you going? I was like, to my house. Do you live there? Yeah, I do. Okay, well, we're going to watch you. You better walk just to that house. And I'm like, okay. So I walked to my house, and my sister's like, oh my God, do you know who Dennis is? Dennis murdered people. He's a serial killer. And I was like,
oh
what?
My God.
Yeah, and it was like a circus after that. Like, we had tour buses of people coming down our street just to look at his house. They had to bulldoze his house down because people were, like, taking bricks and
because it would
garden
probably
stuff.
be dangerous to the rest of the neighborhood.
Oh yes, and I felt so bad for his family. Like, his wife used to buy my Girl Scout cookies. Like, it was insane. It's one of those things. So, like, I don't trust anybody. Like,
Yeah,
like, I don't know, like, anybody that comes around, I'm gonna be like, okay, you're cool, but do you secretly murder people?
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. It's so crazy to me now. Like, you're such, like, you, in general, you do have so many things, like, in your life that are just crazy.
Just crazy, yes.
But you are so, like, positive and light and, like...
Oh, yeah.
I just love you.
Well,
And
thank
that's
you.
crazy. And
But I
you
haven't
blew my
always been
mind,
that
like,
way, though.
oh my
like,
God.
I have to learn to be that way. Because, Well, like with Kaden, and that's the whole reason why I'm on the show. Do we need to look at comments? It looks like a lot
We
of
should
comments.
probably look at comments. Good morning if you're just watching. You guys should definitely take a note from Mattie and be positive when you have like serial killer neighbors next door and
living on the edge.
don't live on the edge. We don't recommend doing that. Don't do what Mattie does.
But no, honestly, like being on all these shows and stuff, it's because of my child. Because my son has autism. He's nonverbal. He started using cannabis in July. And when you have somebody in your family, it doesn't have to be your kid. It could be your spouse. It could be your parent. It could be a sibling. If you have somebody in your life that is struggling with a disability or mental illness, it is very taxing on the caregiver. And when you're a parent, it's even harder because that line blurs between am I a mom or am I a caregiver? And, when you have these children and you look at them, and my kids had total normal development up until we started realizing there were delays and problems. You have all these hopes and dreams, and you're like, my kid's going to play baseball, and we're going to go to soccer, and I'm going to be the mom at all these events, and all this, and then something just stops you in your tracks. It's like, no, that's not the way your life is going to go. It's going to go this way. And I did. I got very depressed for a very long time because the why killed me. Why my children? Why do I have to deal with this? Why I would be a great soccer mom, so why do I have to be this mom? And you have to kind of realize and wrap your head around, like, it doesn't matter what deck of cards you get. Like, if you're pissy and shitty to people, you still have that same deck of cards. It doesn't matter. So why not enjoy yourself? Why not laugh? Why not feel good about life and find the funny things when your kid breaks the fucking window for the 4th time and you're like, oh shit, So I don't want to be miserable, and this is what I'm dealing with for the rest of my life, so I might as well enjoy it.
That's so good. That's so good, and that's like, thank you for sharing that. That was really.
It is, but it's a mindset.
Yeah.
It really. If I hadn't have done that to myself, I stole your lighter. You saw that. You saw it. If I hadn't have done that to myself, if I hadn't have changed my mindset and said, this is how I need to look at it. My kids have a disability, but they're gonna be the best fucking kids ever with this disability. And so you work with what you got, and you have to will yourself. There's some days where I don't even want to get up, and I look in the mirror, and I have to pep talk myself all day. Like, listen, you're a bad bitch. Go get them on the bus. Go get them on the bus. Okay, have a breakdown for a minute. Have a smoke. Okay, you're good. You're going to have a great day. Go talk to some people. Go share some love. Go share some stories. Go do this or that. So,
go be on Wake and Bake.
Yes, yes. Highlight of the day today.
Yes, thank you. And we should look at comments too. I love you, and thank
Thank
you.
you.
I just absolutely love you. And I love you guys, and thank you for watching. And
Sorry,
good morning. And
am I? I'm probably
I'm
terrible.
terrible at ignoring
No.
comments. That's what
Scout,
happened.
you can show up at my house anytime. Anytime.
there's
Right.
many comments. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Lots of crazy stuff already. It was like, go hard already.
know,
this
right?
morning, like,
Well, like when you're around me, like I talk a mile a minute. Unless like I get super medicated, I'm gonna go blah 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 like the whole day. I can't help it.
Scout's mad at you because you didn't tell him.
I didn't tell Scout I was going to be on Wake and Bake. Yes, I did. We have chats all the time. I told you.
You're a badass for sure, is what we're getting.
Thank you.
She is. She's fabulous. Fabulous.
But I did start, and really the reason why I go on all these shows and do all this stuff is because when I got Caden on cannabis, or when 788 passed, I didn't go get him his card right away. And that's what I thought I would do. Like, I put this sign in my yard, like, I supported 788 as much as I could from home. But when it passed, he was manageable. Like, he was on enough medication where we were only having a couple of meltdowns a week, and that was manageable.
It was scary though. Like when
Oh,
78
yeah.
first passed, like
You don't want to be that first one.
It's
You don't know
scary, so it
anybody.
was-
You don't know anybody that has their kid on cannabis.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about it if they do. All the doctors you talk to say we don't have enough research. But for me, like, when Caden started, and I don't know if he got worse because of hormones or what, but the transition from 2018 to 2019 just threw him through a loop. And when he got hospitalized in April, he was 11, and it was our first time ever being hospitalized, and that was like a wake-up call for me. Because we already know mental health is not a priority in this country, let alone this state.
Absolutely.
And so when you have a mental illness starting as a pediatric patient, that's a lifelong thing. And you would think that we would put more into these kids now, so we have less to do as an adult. The more we invest in them now, the better and more capable they'll be as adults. But we don't have facilities. We don't have places. I've had to fight for so much therapy and insurance coverage and things for them that when we got hospitalized, we went to St. Francis Children's Hospital because there's nowhere else that they tell you to go. Then when I get there, I start talking to the nurses, and they act like this is no big thing, that they get kids in here that are aggressive and manic and have autism and different disabilities all the time. And all they do is stabilize them, which is pretty much the medical term for we sedate the shit out of them. And then they send them back home. Because if they keep them for longer than 24 hours, they have to find somewhere for them to go psychiatric-wise. And there's only 3 facilities in our entire state that take kids who are nonverbal. And they'll say low IQ, but Caden's not low IQ. Just because he's nonverbal does not mean that kid is not smart. He outsmarts me all the time.
They're just throwing
yes.
something
It's
on
a communication. And so, but then you have to ask yourself, even if a place was open, would I want my child to go there? Would I want them to? Because what are they going to do? They're going to keep him for a week, 2 weeks. They're going to medicate him up, and then they're going to send him home and say, here's all his new prescriptions.
Yeah.
You know? And so what they did there is they put him on Risperdal. And Risperdal is a heavy antipsychotic medication. It's the one that causes little boys to grow breasts. And Caden did. He gained 30 pounds in 3 months. And his nipples concaved. And I was looking at him one day, and I remember just breaking down and crying because I was like, am I going to have a child with autism and diabetes? Am I going to have to start chasing him down to give him a shot? Like, what, am I setting myself up for failure here? Like, what am I doing? So then you start looking into cannabis, and you start looking into pharmaceuticals, and you start realizing these are tiny, tiny babies that brains are still developing, and they still have all these chemical imbalances from development. And then we're throwing in all this medication on top of them that's messing those chemicals up. And it gets to a point where the issue is now all of the medication they're on, not the actual autism. And nothing that I gave him ever treated the autism. It treated the symptoms of it. Because if you have autism, you're likely to have ADHD. You're likely to have anxiety. You're likely to have all these other things. So they treat these symptoms. But when I switched to cannabis and I started with the tinctures, I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about terpenes. I didn't know anything about the endocannabinoid system. I just knew, like, there had to be a better way. And so I just went and I found a really good place. I started going to MedFarm, and Denise has always been awesome to me. And she gave me some tinctures to try on him, and I was very lucky that he took to him, and we had 6 months of bliss. It was like getting him off all the medicine, getting him on the oil, and then we hit our first bump. So I don't want people to realize, like, my kid's going to be better as soon as I put them on cannabis. It's not.
Right, it's a journey.
It's a journey.
Though,
Yes.
right? Everyone's
yes.
is different, and it's something you just have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, maybe they need to still do some of the medications and stuff.
Yes, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with some pharmaceuticals. You know, if you have diabetes, there's a science to cannabis, just like there's a science to medication.
Right.
And you can find the right combo for you with the least side effects. But, you know, when we're talking about kids, for me, I just feel like the most natural you can do while they develop, while they become the person that they're going to be and get set, is the best course. And Caden has been great. And I will say I very, very much underestimated CBD before we started this, because before we started his card, we did try CBD.
Right.
And I said, CBD doesn't work for him. He needs the THC. It's not enough. Well, I didn't understand that too low dose of a CBD makes them more agitated, can cause more problems. So once I started joining groups and educating myself and looking at all this stuff and keeping a journal, because I never did that for myself. I always say all my symptoms are environmental. Like, I'm not naturally anxiety, I'm not naturally stressed, but stress changes your brain.
Right.
My brain thinks differently. I process everything differently. And so I was using cannabis to check out without having to check out. You know, I wasn't taking a pill that would make me fall asleep. I wasn't taking something that would change my mood or behavior. I was, you know, going outside for a breather, having a smoke, and then coming back in and saying, okay, let's dive back into this.
Right.
So looking at him as a patient and journaling has helped me a lot as a patient, because then I'm like, well, why am I only doing this for him and not for myself? It makes sense to take what I'm learning and benefit everybody in the house. So, and then I have a daughter with autism that doesn't have her card, and she's not on any pharmaceuticals, and she has been doing very well. But, you know,
that's just a different journey.
That's just a different journey, yeah, and they just both happen to live in my home.
Yeah, it's definitely important to, I think, look into cannabis as an option. It's not the answer to everything, but I think it's an option for
absolutely.
many people, and I think that's just, I love that in Oklahoma we can, you know, get to know the growers of the medicine, you can get to know your dispensaries, like, you can be a part of the community, and you can really understand where it's coming from, and that to me feels safer.
Yes. And, you know, I tell parents all the time that are thinking about getting their kids on cannabis, the most empowering thing about it is also the scariest, and that's having complete control. Because we're so used to going to doctors and saying, hey, this is how I feel. Hey, this is what's going on with me, and they'll look in their little journal, and they'll give you guidance, and they'll tell you what to do. We don't have that. We think we don't have that, but we do. You have to ask people. You have to put yourself out there. You have to reach out and say, hey, this is a problem I have. What knowledge do you have? Because everything I know, I got from other people. I got from asking people. I got from going in and putting myself out there and saying, you know, help me. And I think a lot of people in the cannabis community are losing that idea that we're here to help everybody. We want to help everybody. Let's help everybody. And I think that's, you know, what I love most about it.
There was a few questions
Oh,
for you.
okay.
Where'd the first one go?
Ask me questions.
Heather asked, how old is your son?
Oh, my son is 12.
And then, what meds are you thinking, if you don't mind me asking? Oh, wait, no, sorry, that was a reply to somebody else.
Yes, you do need to start journaling, Jennifer.
Yes,
We talked
journaling
about
is
this.
very beneficial.
Just do it. Just do it, like, real quick.
And don't be
whenever.
afraid when you go into the dispensary to ask for the labs.
You
Like,
can
a
do
lot
that
of
here.
people are afraid to ask for it. Like, ask for it. Ask them.
Yeah.
Because that is the Snapchat that is going to help you build your profile. Take a quick picture of it, and then when you go in your journal, you can write down. I started making cane tinctures, because the problem I started finding with tinctures is they are night and day, or, you know, they're not strain specific. They'll say indica or sativa or this or that. But I wanted more strain specific ones where I could actually, like, compare the terpenes and see. And so I found an awesome place, and I get an ounce of shake every Friday, and then I will go home and I decarb it, and I do my little crock pot thing, and I make him tinctures. And the Blue Dream was really awesome for him, and that's a sativa, and that kind of floored me because I've always thought indica, but sativa makes sense. And I think it was pinene that was the one that was high in that one. So then I went back out and I got another sativa that was high in pinene, the green crack, that I'm getting ready to make into a tincture. And so it's just testing these little things out and trying them, and you have to make mistakes to learn to get it better. And I think that once we start talking about that more and sharing that with people, they'll start realizing this is why we're doing this. This is why it's important.
Absolutely. And you can work on it and build it together as a community, and that's important. Like, it just betters everyone if we just share all the information we can, help each other, and help ourselves and empower yourselves as a patient. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't feel like you're the only cannabis user, you're the only mom that's a patient, you're the only mom with a child that's a patient. Like, don't feel alone, because you're not. There's always people in the community that you can reach out to and ask for help, or If you have questions, you can always ask us, comment on any of our posts, and if we don't know answers, we'll direct you or help you find someone that can answer those questions for you.
And as far as journaling, definitely write down the strain, your terpenes, the percentage. It's not going to be as important as the terpenes, but it's up there. I mean, if you have a very low tolerance, you want to, maybe learn what your tolerance range is. Also, write down the effects it had for you. What symptoms did it relieve? Did it not do anything for you? Did it agitate you?
Yeah. And that's hard, like, if you're worried about it, like, having a nonverbal child like Kaden, like, we know when something's different, when something's changed, so just watch those little subtle things, and that's what I do. Like, is he stimming more? Is he stimming less? Is he seem more agitated? Is he making more eye contact? Does he seem less fidgety? Those little things are what you're going to notate and write down and say, okay, this was a good one, and this one I didn't like so much. But also, too, you have to remember that they will build up a tolerance to it. So you can't use the same strain over and over and over and over every month because it's not going to work. I have like 3 to 4 strains at a time that I switch out from. So I'll use one for a week and then I'll switch to a different one and just keep that rotation going.
We're gonna have to have you come back on again sometime.
Oh,
because
okay.
I think there's so much that like it.
Yeah, I mean, it just
there's
helps.
so much to talk about.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And maybe like we could set up like a Q&A where like you can let people know and they can share it, and if you have a question or this or that. What did Heather say? How long do you go with the first dosage ratio and for how long? Oh, at night, a little more sparky. So I don't know exactly what specifically is being asked, but I will tell you like what his dosage is. So we had to do a reset at the beginning of January because Kaden had shoved some things in his ears and had to go get sedated to get them taken out. That's happened before. That to me, like that's shocking to you guys, but to me that's not a thing. Like that happens all the time.
Right.
So, but what was different about this one is when he went back to the operating room, he covered his face and wouldn't let them put the gas mask on. So instead of asking me or anything, they gave him a shot of ketamine. And to calm him down, to give that mask on. So when they came out and told me they gave him ketamine, they didn't tell me adverse reactions. They didn't tell me, look for this or that. They acted like it was no big deal, so I thought it was no big deal. He woke up vomiting. It was the first time ever he's woke up from sedation vomiting. They sent us home from the hospital while he was vomiting. And then for the next 4 weeks, he was like a completely different child. It was like manic rages all the time, no matter what TH tincture I was using, no matter what I was doing. Like the last January was terrible for me. And you guys probably wouldn't know that because I don't post about, and I probably should post about the bad just as much as I do the good, but for me, I internalize a lot, and so I don't worry about anything else going on around me. I'm just worried about my sanity and keeping him safe. And when you have a child that's, throwing his head back into the wall as hard as he can because he's frustrated, it's a feeling that is so I don't even know how to describe it, how overwhelming it is. And that was all from the ketamine. And he even stopped eating for an entire week. And they said, the shot metabolized in his liver. It's a very rare adverse reaction. It's going to take a while. They even said he could have hallucinations. Could you imagine not being able to talk to somebody and you're seeing shit going on around you and you have no idea how to explain it or what? Like, no wonder he was flipping out. Like, so what I did was I was like, okay, I got into reading CBD. I said, I'm going to work on this. So I get full spectrum Lazarus Naturals CBD. And I do that because they give you a 60% discount for being a veteran or disabled. And it makes the CBD very affordable. And it's really good. So it's the full spectrum CBD. And I give him 150 milligrams of CBD in the morning. And then I give him 150 milligrams of CBD around 4 o'clock. And then by about 6:37, when it's time to eat, I'll give him his Blue Dream. And this is where I have difficulty. And if somebody has education they can share with me, I will take it. Because I don't know how to figure up the THC ratio in the tinctures that I'm making him. So, like, I don't know. I'm estimating he's getting about 12 milligrams of THC a day, I'm thinking, because I'll give him the Blue Dream, which seems to stimulate his appetite, right about 30 minutes before dinner, so about 6:37. He'll take that, and then he eats, and then when we get closer to about 8:39, I'll give him his indica strain, and that has been very, very helpful in helping him sleep. And then it just kind of depends. If he's having a rough day, he might get some THC a little bit sooner in the day. But it all kind of works together and has kind of brought us to this Zen moment that we're in right now. So I'm kind of riding this little high, like, let's keep my house together. Let's stay chill. Like, I very much enjoy this.
Oh my goodness, that's good.
But yeah, the sleeping issues, it could be, because I've read different things, Heather, I've read different things about CBD, that, like, if you have too low of a dose, it could make you sleepy and agitated. If you have too high of a dose, it can make you too active. You really have to, like, play with it and figure it out and see. And I was just lucky that I found that dose where I was like, because I was increasing it by 25 milligrams each. So we started with 100 milligrams in the morning, and then I added 25 in the evening, and then the next day I added another 25 in the evening, and then just kind of added that 25 to whichever dose until we reached that 300, and was like, okay, this is doing really good. But then also you have to reset, and you have to, you have to stop using it for 24 to 48 hours when you feel like it's not working, to kind of reset your body to start taking it again. So, I mean, there's a lot to it.
We are, okay, gonna have to go to work?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're totally fine. Like,
talking.
it's important information, and we wanted to share that, and we're so glad you're here, and we do have to have you back to come.
Yeah.
Oh,
most
absolutely.
We'll have a
definitely.
part 2, okay, guys?
Yes.
So keep an eye out for part 2. We'll do that.
So funny.
But we love you, and
Awesome.
we gotta go to work.
Okay.
Everybody have
Go
a
to work.
fabulous day.
Bye.
We love